Welcome, welcome, welcome to Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion in Library Communities. I'm so excited because this is a group of librarians that I've been working with, feels like forever, and I know how amazing they are, and I'm so happy that you will also know how amazing they are by the end. I am Dr. Desiree Alexander. I am at Educator Alex on Twitter. You see the other Twitter handles at Pinkston Library, at B Webster LIB, and at Hutch LIB. So these are all of the Twitter handles. If you are watching this on YouTube later, if you scroll right under the video where the description is, if you click show more, you'll see the resource that we're going to be using today, and you'll also see the Twitter handles. So just to let you know that you do have access to those. So again, I'm Dr. Desiree Alexander. I am the founder, CEO of Educator Alexander Consulting. And that just brings me around the globe doing this, helping educators in any way that I can. These are all of my different ways that you can get in contact with me. There's also a QR code on the screen that will lead you to all of these different ways that you can get in contact with me. So get in contact with me. I started my career as a 6th grade and 8th grade English teacher, became a middle school librarian, a high school librarian, a district level technology supervisor, and now I'm doing this. So that's my kind of career in a nutshell. We have some other free webinars coming up, and you can sign up for all of these at one website, edalex.net/events. There's also a QR code in the corner. So next week, we have a bunch of stuff coming up. So we have the Tech You Can Do Intro to Google Apps series. We're kind of rounding that out with Google Forms for online assessments on Thursday, and on Friday, Intro to Google Sites. We also have Intro to Microsoft Teams on that Friday as well. And then Saturday, I'm going to be doing a classroom management course. And then we have Misinformation in the Information Age, which is another good one for everybody, but especially librarians. So you may want to come on back for that one. Then there's the Bitmoji class. Nobody teaches Bitmoji like Jen. Like, you got to come to that. So it's all about using Bitmojis for education. And then we have differentiating, I didn't say that right, assignments in Google Classroom. And then templates for teachers. A lot of really, really good webinars, all free. And then we have a free Kids Academy camp that is sponsored by the company Kids Academy. Is for pre-K students through 3rd grade students. Educators can sign up for free because you get like a 3-month trial. And then parents can sign up for $20. And it's a summer camp that pre-K through 3 can enroll in and, of course, learn from. Then we have Region 10 librarians at Camp Irving. It is free for Region 10 librarians, paid for everyone else. And I will be a spotlight presenter. And another panelist, Val, will be a spotlight presenter. She'll tell you about that a little bit. So you can find, again, all this on my website. You're like, Desiree, you're going too fast. I know, because it's all on the website, the one same website. And then we have distance learning for ELA that's coming up. I also do a straight distance learning class. You can find out more information about that. Where? On the website. So these are the resources that we're going to be going through today. So you want to get this link. You want to use the QR code. I'll also put this link in the chat, and I will post it again. So if you're just coming in, I will post that again. But you want to get this link because we've been collecting a lot of resources dealing with diversity, equity, and inclusion. That will be it's just a really good resource. So you don't want to miss this resource. Hopefully I've talked about it enough that you've taken a picture of it or you've written it down. It's not long, right? All right, so we will have an evaluation at the end. The evaluation at the end is for people who are here live to get a certificate. So the only people that can get a certificate are people who are here live. And I don't care if you're here for 5 years, if you don't fill out the evaluation, you're not getting a certificate. Even if you email me your entire life story, you're not getting a certificate. You have to fill out the evaluation and you have to do it during class. I will post the evaluation 15 minutes before the session ends, and then I'll just keep posting it. So you've heard enough from me. I want the rest of the panel to introduce themselves, and then I'm actually going to stop sharing my screen, and we're going to get into some questions and answers. Okay? So Deidra, Please introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Deidra Ballard-Moore. I am a librarian currently at a high school, but I'm in a unique place. It's actually a combination high school and middle school. So we have grades 7 through 12, and we also have a collegiate academy, as well as the regular comprehensive high school. So there's a lot going on there. I started out in marketing, and then I went to teaching French, and then I became a school librarian, and I've been loving it every single minute.
Thank you so much, Deidra. Raquel?
Hi, I'm Raquel Cummings. I am the librarian in Mansfield ISD. I teach, but I am the librarian at Brooks Western Middle School. Pretty much had a lot of experience with middle school and high school. Started out my career about 20-ish years ago, and I taught business high school classes and then transitioned into being a librarian. So here I am.
All right, thank you. And Valerie?
Hello, my name is Valerie Tagoe. I'm a librarian at Wilmer Hutchins High School in Dallas, Texas. I've been an educator for about 20 years. This will be my 20th year. Started as a special education teacher, then made the move into libraries. I'm also a member of the Young Adult Library Services Association Board of Directors, and I'm a 2020 ALA Policy Corps member. So I'm excited about that.
And I want to throw a surprise question at Valerie. So Valerie, you see how it says Media Center Mavens? And I don't know if you can see our shirts, but we are the Media Center Mavens. So Valerie, I want to throw a question at you that also kind of gets us jumping into diversity, equity, and inclusion in library services. Why you were the creator of the Media Center Mavens? You thought about, hey, let's get some librarians together that you knew to present on a regional and a national stage. Why did you see the vision or why did you see the need to get this certain collection of educators together to do that?
Well, we all went to the 2015 Texas Library Association conference. I forgot what city it was in, and I just thought that, hey, there's not very many librarians of color presenting at these conferences. And I think we went to like a social or a happy hour or something that a vendor had done. And an African-American librarian commented, she's like, oh, it's so good to see, some Black librarians, here. And I was like, wait a minute, we need to start presenting. We need to talk about what we're doing on our campuses and in our communities, the work that we're doing, and share, our experiences and our ideas with the library community. So that's kind of what got all of this started. That is what got it all started.
So. Okay. Thank you, Val. So guys, you see all of the Twitter handles. I'm also posting it. So tweet at us. Let us know what you think about this session. Take pictures, do whatever you want to do, and definitely let us know what you're thinking about this session. Also, put your questions in the chat because we will be answering your questions as we're going through this discussion. So what I'm going to do right now is stop sharing my screen so you can see everyone on the panel. You can also, if you look in I think it's the top right-hand corner for everyone, you may see speaker view or grid view. You may want to have it on grid view and you can see everyone at the same time, or on speaker view, you only see the one person who's speaking. So it's completely up to you. But so I'm actually going to come here and do that for the recording. So Deidra, I want to direct the first question to you, and it's about, librarians are awesome, number one, but are also support, right? We support curriculum, we support students, we support teachers, we support campuses, we support communities. So being in that support role during all of this racial unrest and during COVID and all of these things going on, how can librarians support racial equity on campus? If you have teachers that are saying, hey, I need help being culturally relevant, and if I'm a librarian and I need help being culturally relevant, what can librarians do to support?
That's a great question, and I'm sure it's on a lot of people's minds. I've been thinking about it a lot myself here lately. The first thing I would say as a librarian we would do would be to do a diversity audit of your collection. And if you're not exactly sure what that is, a diversity audit is where you just go through that physical collection. You don't have to do the entire collection because some of us have huge collections, thousands of books. Start with one section, or if that's even too intimidating, just start with your next book order and do a diversity audit. Go through that order and see how many of these books have BIPOC, which is diverse people of color, is the main character, not as a side character or as a supporting person is mentioned or something like that, as a main character with a real role. How many of those books have that? How many of these books are written by authors that are of color? And then go from there. See how old these books may be, because they may not even be they may be not as relevant now as they were in the past, even though everybody that is brown does not want to read about slavery. Sometimes we want to read about fantasy that has a young Black person of color as the main character. But do the diversity audit, and there is a great one, the Teen Librarian Toolbox. It's in our resource list, actually. She shows you exactly how to do it, so use her steps, go through with that. You can partner with diverse groups at your school. You may have I forget what it's called. It's the LULAC group or something. You may have one of those at your school, or maybe there's an Asian group at your school or something. My daughter's school had the Brown Squad, and they were mainly children from Northern Africa, but partner with those groups and just see exactly what it is that they would like to read or they would like to do. Let them come in and do a performance during lunchtime or after school. Do a poetry slam and feature multicultural artists performing. There's a lot of different things you can do, and celebrate diversity in your library all year long, not just in one particular month. Pride Month is not the only time that you can celebrate the LGBTQ students at your school. February is not the only time that you can celebrate Black history. So do things like that all year long, but just use the resources around you, because so many people would be excited to partner with you, but if you don't ask, they're going to be too shy to ask. So I just say, just get out there and get started.
And I have to agree. I agree with everything she said. And one other thing to do also is to poll your students, because especially students of color, or even those in the LGBTQ community, because they know what books they want to read, that they've already seen, that they want access to, and and you have to not be afraid to celebrate those diversities either. And I admit that I at one school I was a little bit afraid, because most of the kids were not like me. They were, mostly white population. And so I was like, oh, it's Black history. Oh, I'll only put in a little bit, until one of the administrators came to me and said, you know what, Raquel, look, this is Black history. We need to celebrate it. It doesn't matter. Then it clicked. I'm like, you know what am I doing? I need to celebrate. I'm celebrating everybody equally, and I'll just do it throughout the year.
Valerie, anything to add?
I agree with Raquel and Deidra. Talk to the students. Talk to your kids. They'll tell you. They'll give you that feedback. They'll give you that information, the titles they want to read, the programs they want to see. Always develop those relationships and communicate, with the students. They're going to help drive your collection development. They're going to help drive what programs, give you ideas for what programs you'd like to put on in your library. Yeah. So, always seek out that student voice, that student community voice. Mm-hmm.
And I want to piggyback on collection, but then I want to kind of switch us off to teachers themselves. But looking at collection, I love the finding multiple voices from different cultures. And we know that culture does not just mean race. So let's understand the terminology that we have around us as well. So when we talk about equity and culture, we're talking about sexual orientation, we're talking about religion, we're talking about race, we're talking about where we live regionally, where we live, neighborhood by neighborhood. All that creates parts of your culture. So when you're looking at your collection, you want to look at, well, not only am I representing these cultures, but how am I representing these cultures? So, because there's books by, Latinx authors, Hispanic authors, Black authors, Native American authors, Indian authors, Asian authors. There's books by these people, but no culture is monolithic. So it's not okay to say, oh, I have that one book by that one Black author and she's going to represent everybody, because it's just not true. Also, you want to look at the topic of the book. So is the book a predominantly white story with a Black character, which those have a place, we need those, but also, is it a book about the actual culture? So those are two different things that we want to represent both. So we want books about the actual culture, and then we also want books where, I hate to say normalized, but where is a quote unquote canon type of story, but there's people of color as the actual leads. So I think there's two different places that you want to look in your collection. But I want to move us a little bit different, still the same topic, but how can you help teachers? So how can you help teachers that may come into you and go, I'm trying to be more culturally relevant, I just don't know how. Where do I start? I don't know where to start. I feel even weird coming to ask you, but I need help. How do you help those teachers?
You have to create some sort of open door policy regardless, because I think sometimes teachers are afraid, especially when you're a new librarian. I've been a new librarian on a couple of campuses, and it's always hard to get in the groove of what's the norm on that campus, because before they may not have ever come to the librarian about anything. Now you then have to kind of switch gears and kind of teach them that, okay, now you can actually come to me and ask. And I think that's the biggest thing. Just they know that they can come and ask you anything, regardless.
How do you create that?
I always, I talk to individuals. I'm all about talking to the individual teachers. If they're a science teacher, oh yeah, well, when you come in the library, you come on in, I'm doing this and that. This is what I can help you with. And I'll do the individual thing. Now you do the orientations and things like that with the whole staff and everything. But I think I'm all about the personal relationships. I think when I was in Dallas, they had the OHI, so you want that occupational type health and the interpersonal thing, as opposed to doing the big grid. Because I can get to everybody at some point, even if it's, we sit together. I try not to sit with certain people all the time, because I want them to know that you can actually come to me and don't feel bad about it. And don't even feel embarrassed, even if you think it's something that maybe you think I don't want to hear,
Or you can get them early too. I like to get them really early. Like when they have the new teacher training at the beginning of the year, I like to be either associated with that as someone who's working with them doing a session or something, or else at least let them get me in there to introduce myself, give the new teachers some type of freebie or something, and then let them know some of the different things that they can contact me for, that it's not necessarily just library related, but information related in general. Because I feel like a lot of, especially a lot of the younger ones, they think that's the librarian, they're just there for library stuff. No, if you need any type of resource, you can come and ask me. And if I don't have it in the library, then I can tell you where to get it. If I don't know where to get it, then I'll find out for you. I don't mind digging, because the teachers have their hands full. We know that. They have their hands full with testing, with trying to figure out how they're going to do their online lessons. They just have their hands full with everything in general. So let me take some of that off your back, the burden off your back. I'll find out for you. And if you need help actually implementing in the classroom, hey, here I am. I don't mind helping with that. So if you're just seen as a welcoming, friendly, and helpful person, they are a lot more likely to come and ask you for different things. And sometimes it's totally not your job what they're asking, but you're building a relationship with them by saying, yes, I can help you with that. Or sure, I don't mind being in there when y'all talk about this, because they just may not feel comfortable doing certain things. Go ahead and help them out.
Perfect. And we did have a question that kind of relates to this before we move to the next topic. And that is, we're hearing more and more about cultural appropriation. So can you talk about this a little bit more? And how teacher librarians can be mindful when celebrating special days and inviting presenters to talk about different cultures. And I think I want to hop on that one if y'all don't mind. So when you're talking about cultural appropriation, even when I was in the classroom, I started feeling very odd about certain things we were doing to celebrate diversity because of its very surface level. We have to start somewhere. So, you know, I'm never like, I can't believe you did that. But starting at the surface level of like, everybody bring a dish from your culture, or everybody, I mean, it's fine to start there, but that's very surface level when you're talking about culture, right? So kind of what the rest of the MCMs just said, digging a little bit deeper than that, not being afraid to start the conversation with your teachers and your students to say, what do you want to see? How can I be more culturally sensitive? They will tell you, okay? They will tell you. So number one is asking. Don't be afraid to start that conversation. And then number two is you have to take it upon yourself to learn more. It is your job to learn more. You can't just sit there and go, oh, okay, well, I need to ask my Black and brown friend. No. You can start there and start that conversation, but it's not on them to teach you. It's not on me to teach you about my culture and how to treat me. It is on you to take it upon yourself to read more, to join groups. If you look at your social media and you look at the people that you respond to the most and the people that you interact with the most, and if they all look exactly like you, that's an issue because you're not learning from different perspectives. Okay, so it's that kind of thing where you need to do a self-bias check. You need to look at yourself and go, okay, what do I need to learn more about? And then let me go and start doing that. So I'm going to stop right there. But I think that's part of that when you're talking about cultural appropriation and not doing that surface level stuff and digging a little bit deeper. Anybody else want to say anything about that?
Well, I mean, when people say cultural appropriation, you know, to me, that means taking on cultures and traditions that you may not even understand fully and making them your own, and people object to that because there was one instance recently, some members of Congress put on kente stoles and they kneeled like in protest at the Capitol. And there was a big backlash against that because kente in the Ghanaian culture, my family's from Ghana, kente prints, only certain people wear them for certain types of occasions. They have particular meanings. So, you know, some people were very like offended by that or critical of that. So you just want to be mindful that you're not taking on something or doing things and not fully understanding where the origins of it, where it comes from, why people wear, you know, certain cloths at particular occasions, when it's appropriate to wear those things. So I think it's more about, again, informing and educating yourself and having that information available to your students and your staff, making sure that's available in your library. And, you know, I think that's where you can make the differentiation between the two.
Perfect. I love that. So learn. If you even have a little twinge of, I wonder if I should stop and go ask somebody, go look it up, like stop. Okay, we have another question. It's kind of on this, and then we're going to move into librarians during COVID. So what advice do you have for choosing books that represent diverse cultures and experiences without perpetuating stereotypes?
I do something as simple as going into Tidal Wave or Follett, and I actually look and type in the actual subject, then I review all the books that it lists. So if I'm looking for books for my Latin culture, I don't want, I do know I have to have some books that are in different languages. I was at a school I was at, we were like the UN of the district because we had so many different cultures that came in and out of that school in so many different languages. So I would make sure that Swahili was represented. I would make sure that German was represented, because I understood that they also needed the same access. It may not have been equitable because financially, it just probably wasn't going to work that way. But once I get the names of the books, I do a little bit of reviews and see what they were about and see if this is something that my kids would like, or if it's something that I feel like needs to be in the collection regardless of whether they want it or not. Because I think sometimes they don't really know, and nobody knows. The school that I'm at now doesn't have much diversity in the collection. So that's what I'm now working on to make sure, not only am I getting rid of a lot of stuff because so many things are so old, but I'm also now replacing them with those diverse reads and things like that, specifically for the kids. I had a kid that walked in, and he was from, he's Black, and it was a Black superhero. He said, "We have this book." And I said, "Oh yeah, go over there and get it." And he was just so excited. "Can I take it?" "Yeah, you can take it." I mean, you can't have it, but he was just so excited. So you want to make sure that they have what they look like too. And I was at a school where, it's predominantly African-American. So even in that Black school, I made sure to include other cultures in those collections too, because they also need to have a different perspective as well.
So we have another question. This is the last one I'll take just for this. Is if we're not already celebrating diversity in our displays and events, should we start with the surface level of promoting events and books during the month of week, just so that we get into the habit and then quickly move to doing diversity every year?
I think that's a good start. But understand that's just a start. That's not where you end. So if you do it one year, the next year, take it a little bit further. That's what I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be a huge thing, because sometimes you run out of time. You don't necessarily have time to change out your displays every week or every month or every however often you want to do it, because we just have so many other responsibilities. You can do some small things. You can do a quote during morning announcements, or you can do a post on your social media, whether you're using Instagram or Twitter. You can do small things like that. You can add something new into your collection. Say if you have a maker space, you can have some type of basket weaving set up with the instructions and tell the history of it, where it's from, what culture, the type of basket that they're making, just whatever, just small things. But it doesn't have to be something that you're constantly changing out this display or putting up a new bulletin board or doing that, because you will wear yourself out if you're trying to. It's just too much to do unless you have a ton of assistants around to help you.
And let's be real, representation matters. So even like whatever you are doing, make sure multiple cultures are represented. Is really kind of that simple. So if you're doing a book collection and you step back and look at every book and it's a white character on the cover of every book you just put out, that's an issue. So switch out some of those books. It doesn't have to be revolutionary right at the start, because you have to start somewhere. But look at the posters on your wall. Look at the things that you're promoting. What cultures are represented? If I walk in as a young Black girl, do I see myself anywhere in your library? If I walk in as a young Hispanic girl, do I see myself anywhere? So it's that type of thing that, like Raquel just said, he walked in, was like, Black superhero, and got so, because representation matters. Do you have disabilities represented? Do you have all of those? Do you have anyone with a wheelchair represented anywhere in your library? Just things like that. Just start to be a little bit more open with your mind when you're putting stuff together. Okay, I need to represent multiple. Okay, so I'm gonna move us along, and Valerie, I'm gonna throw this question to you first. And this is about being a librarian during COVID. I know a lot of us are starting, whether it be public libraries or school libraries, and I know you have experience in both, so I want to throw this to you first. Being a librarian during COVID, being equitable, being inclusive, where do we start? How do we how do we inject ourselves into a situation that we may not always be thought of as a value or thought of as a resource? How do we do that?
Well, just make sure that people know you're still available and there are still resources they can access, even if there is a shutdown, even if you have to work from home. This spring we did the shutdown and everything, and I work part-time at a public library. So although the library was closed to the public, we had to, quickly shift and pivot and determine what services we could still provide to the public, because they couldn't physically come into the library. So we updated our website and made sure that people knew what databases were available and how they could access them. We did virtual programming, story times using Facebook Live and things like that. And we answered the phone. We still had to come into the building, which was controversial because I know a lot of librarians were like, why, we're putting ourselves at risk by even stepping into the building and coming to work every day. But, I'm not at the top, so I didn't make all of those decisions, but I still went into the building and I answered the people's phone calls, their questions about their library cards, the status of their library cards, helping to issue electronic cards. We did curbside pickup. So it's just important that you quickly make that shift so that you are still available to your student community or the general public if you're working in a public library or academic library. Whatever setting that is, make sure your website's up to date and say, here's what I can provide to you now. Even though we're in this situation, these are the services I can provide. Same thing at the school. I set up a school-wide Google Classroom that anybody can join, students and teachers, and I put resources that they could use, and I made myself available. Like I created a Canva of things that I was doing each week, like a library power hour where students could come on and ask questions. Put your lessons or your ideas and put that information out there on Instagram or however the school's website, so that they know that you are still available and you're still ready to work with them and meet their information needs. So I think it's important that we do that.
I like the idea of having them have access to those resources, and just make sure that when you're doing those Google Classrooms, make sure they're easy to maneuver. Because sometimes if they're so intricate and they contain so much information, I get confused. I know if I'm getting confused in some cases, I know that others are too.
To piggyback on what Raquel and Val just said, reach out to your FLS class, your students with special needs, because a lot of times they don't get included in things, especially now with us being online. They get lost quite easily. So part of being an inclusive librarian is to make sure you include your entire school population. So check with their teacher and see what you can do to help them out. Even if it may be a secondary school, there are so many diverse story picture books that you can read for them. You can do story times for them. You can offer make and take kits or something for their parents, so that there's things with manipulatives that they can check out, that they can still use, so that they are included with the rest of the school and still learning.
Okay. You mentioned a couple of things about like curbside service, and how do you set up those things? Like, how do you even begin to have, I guess, that conversation? And this is for anybody too, but how do you begin to have that conversation with your admin? Because I know you can't just be like, I'm going to do this. So how do you start that?
Okay, so that was a service, or that is a service that the public library I work at part-time is doing. So patrons have to log onto the online public access catalog, place holds on materials like movies, DVDs, books, what have you. When those items become available, you automatically get a message from the circulation system, but we also call the patron and let them know. And then, we just put like the steps to do that onto the library's website. After they get the phone call that the items are ready, they have to call the library's phone number, let the staff know that they are there or on the way to the library, pull up to the doors. Some public libraries have drive-throughs. Pull up to the drive-through, and we had our masks and gloves and everything on, and we went ahead and checked the items out to the patron, and then went outside and gave the books and movies and things to them. So that's how we did curbside pickup. Some libraries are doing it differently with contactless. They'll put it on the hood of your car, when you call and say that you're there to pick up, or put it, at the parking space, or they'll put it in your trunk. So just think about how you can put the instructions out to your patrons for how they can do that when you're making your proposal to your administrator. If you're going to do this at a school, give him or her the steps, and how you want to execute the curbside pickup. And then once he or she has approved it, then you tell your student population and your staff, okay, this is the service I'm offering. Here's where you're going to go to pick up your items. I'm going to be doing lessons on how to search the pack and place holds on materials. And then when you're ready to come, when your items are ready and you're coming to pick them up, this is where you go, and this is how you're going to pick up your library materials. So just lay out the process and think about how you can do it, and make that proposal to your administrator. And then if it's approved, just run with it. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so another idea that we can use. Anything else on this topic, Raquel or Deidra?
I would say if your principal, if your administrator is a hard sell, if they're kind of backing off, they don't really want you to do it, go with something that they would be more interested in. Tell them that this will help with the literacy slump. The kids have been away from school for how many months now? 4 months. Having them have access to books that they selected themselves is going to help them to get back on board with reading, with processing information, and also SEL. It's an SEL service. Having a book is going to boost their emotional well-being. We've had a lot of terrible things happen during this time. I know we've had a lot, well, not a lot, but we've had, I know several teenagers around the Metroplex have taken their own lives. So just being able to contribute to giving that emotional well-being a boost. Reading is a form of escapism. Some of the kids need to escape. They're in a place that's not so good now that they're not able to actually get into the school. They've got this scary COVID going on. Let them have that. This will be something great that you can do as the administrator at your school to contribute to the well-being of your students. So.
Okay.
Yeah. And I agree with both of them. At my school, there are no students in the building until September 28th. So I definitely want to offer something because my kids actually read. These middle schoolers are all about their books, and I'm packed every morning at lunch. So I don't have a choice. They need those books. Yeah.
Are you guys offering anything like ebooks or audio books or like electronic books? Inky had a good thing in the chat about reading books to younger students on video, even though, of course, you also need to think about copyright when you do that, because not all authors want you to do that to their books. But I mean, what have y'all done during that when we kind of shut down,
well,
if anything?
Some of the publishers like Mackin and things like that offered their ebooks for free for a certain short amount of time. So I did offer that to mine. My school didn't have any ebooks. I did place an order that was going to be placed after spring break, and I'm still waiting because, of course, spring break I'm still in spring break at this point. So hopefully when I get back, that can be something that can be, when I get back Wednesday, that can be something immediate. We'll add those and then add a new crop. And I made sure to order only books that were unlimited usage. So that way my kids, everybody could have. And I mean, yeah, I can get less books, but I'd rather have an unlimited supply or usage of books that they love, as opposed to just having random books that are out there.
I did not have a lot of success with ebooks while we were out. I had like at the most each month, because I looked at my statistics, at the most I might get 15 books checked out. And that was like 1 month I got 15. Usually it was around between 5 and 10 of the ebooks that were checked out. And that was something I struggled with before we got out of school. My kids just, they just prefer to have a print book in their hands. And I have to admit, I do too. I push myself to read audio books. I listen to them in my car or while I'm doing chores around the house, or read ebooks. I don't really enjoy, and I know this is bad for a librarian to say, probably, I don't enjoy reading ebooks. I like reading print books. So I understand the struggle with my kids, but at some point, I guess you read what you have. If you like to read, you read what you have. So it got better. The 15 was more towards the end of school, when the kids were, I guess, getting desperate to read something. They couldn't get a print book anymore, which is another reason why what Val was saying about the curbside service, I want to do that as well. I think it's going to be super important because otherwise they're going to get lost. The kids are going to get lost, and we don't want that to happen.
And I'm definitely an audio book baby, so I'm all about the audio book.
I love it.
Yeah, and I think I was having a conversation with one of you earlier, and you brought up something good about curbside service. You can also expand curbside service beyond just getting the book from the library, but also getting stuff that teachers need to hand out. Does anybody want to elaborate on that? Because I thought that was a really interesting idea.
Yeah, what if the science teachers are doing some type of a lab? Because labs are a fun part of science. I think it's a very fun part of science. My son absolutely loves science. He's he's going to 10th grade, rising 10th grader. And that was one of his favorite things, was to go into the science class and do the labs, whatever they may be. So if the science teachers are doing a lab, and if we are already going to be on campus 1 day a week pulling books for the kids for curbside service, why not go ahead and drop off the science kit that the teacher may have for her students as well? And that's another way of partnering with the teachers and promoting diverse things with that teacher, because you may be able to sneak something else in along with their kid. Maybe you can sneak in a science book or something like that the kids can check out. You never know. But whatever that they're doing, or if the math teachers are sending home some type of tool that the kids may need, you can go ahead and pass that out as well. It also gets the kids to knowing you a little bit more. It's your connection with your students outside of what we're doing now, which is great. I am so thankful that we can Zoom and everything, but it's still not as personable as seeing them face to face in life, in real life. So it gets you right there with your students, with your parents. It's a connection with that teacher. They'll be more likely to partner with you for something else later on, I think.
So thank you. If you weren't hearing, there are so many ideas that were just given for being a librarian during COVID, not just the curbside service, but partnering with your teachers to give office hours, giving library office hours for your teachers and your students. Just a lot of really good stuff that you can at least bring up to your administration to say, hey, I'm still here. I'm ready to go. Let's go. I am still a resource. I am still the heart of this campus, even though our campus is electronic. So I love that. Thank you so much. Okay, so kind of moving us along, Raquel, I want to direct this question to you first, and it's about digital equity. So how do we be inclusive? How do we be equitable? How do we help our teachers be equitable and inclusive when we're all online, when we're doing this digital ride that we're on? How do we help?
See, this is the thing, I think, we've all talked about how I think unfair, certain, districts and our kids, don't get the same treatment if you're in one school and then another, they have, access to those devices. Then there's a school that doesn't have access, or they have a little bit of access, but not enough. I think sometimes even teachers as adults, we all forget that not everybody has the same access to all those things. Yeah, they have a smartphone, which, yeah. Could they have bought a computer instead? Who knows? I don't know. But they have a smartphone. So I think in their heads, they think, oh, you have a smartphone so you can get the work done, which is true. You can still get some work done. But I think we just have to be cognizant of the fact that not everybody has what everybody else has. And we can't assume, even if they do have a computer, they may not have Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi is expensive. Who has $30 minimum to pay for Wi-Fi in their house every month when you still have to pay for, regular food and electricity and everything else to add on top of that? I don't know. I think I'm not really sure how to fix it. And I'm hoping, and I'm seeing that school districts now are starting to step up a little bit. My son's school district, and I'm seeing Dallas are actually giving kids these devices now, which makes me mad too, because that means you've had access to these things and you've chosen not to share the wealth with all of the students. That's just my opinion. And, I can go off on a tangent with that. But, when I got the email that said my son's school district is getting Chromebooks, and I'm like, well, you just said you didn't have the money. Now you have money. And I think I want to know why you have money now, because you didn't have money before. I've worked in school districts that had the money, and those kids were on this current school district I'm in. Every kid has a device. Nothing to worry about. That school is great. That district is fine. Other school districts weren't. It's not fair. I think a lot of times the school systems at the top forget that it is not equal. And I think it has to start from the top, and we have to stop assuming things. And I don't think we should we shouldn't put it on the teachers, because again, the teachers only forget because the top has forgotten. So it's like it's a trickle down effect. But like I said, I could talk all day about the unfairness of everything, but I'm just noticing. And when I saw Dallas was also giving, I'm like, Dallas is one of the biggest school districts in the state of Texas. And now you have money to give every kid a device. That means you've had it before. Now you've chosen not to share the wealth when it comes to those devices and that digital equity. So,
or some of them may have gotten CARES money. So
yeah, some have gotten CARES money, but
devil advocate, but we
yeah.
know.
Yeah. Okay.
Exactly.
Right.
or they applied for certain grants, that are available from the state, and money's, earmarked for that from the government, the federal government to the states. But I do agree with you on that, Raquel. But, our superintendent, Dr. Hinojosa, touched on this after COVID hit,
right,
that access to broadband is now like a right, pretty much, because in order for us to teach students, they've got to be able to access the internet. And it's going to take, there are some solutions, that they're now being forced to take in the interim, but it's going to take policy changes. I'm a member of the ALA Policy Corps, and that broadband, expanding affordable access to broadband is one of the issues that, we're going to be talking to, congressional representatives about. And it's already being discussed right now as they're crafting those coronavirus relief bills. They're already talking about it and where to send the money. Are they going to send it through E-rate? Is it going to be an FCC thing? How are they going to send the money to accomplish, the goal of increasing access to affordable broadband? But in the interim, school districts have had to purchase hotspots Even before COVID hit, the Dallas Public Library purchased hotspots. The city of Dallas approved a huge purchase, and they looked at certain areas of the city and sent hotspots to the branches in those areas where they knew availability to affordable high-speed internet is an issue. So there were actions, cities and states, were taking some action, and even school districts were taking actions before COVID hit. But now they're forced, everybody's forced to, because it's an educational issue. It's a work, an economic impact issue, people being able to work from home. So I think we, as librarians, we all should keep the pulse and start advocating. Write a letter to your city council member and say, hey, I'm not happy with the choices that are available in this area as far as being able to access, high-speed internet. Is there anything we can do at the local, at the city council level? Write to your representatives and say, as you're debating these things in Congress, think about areas in your district that don't have access to fiber optic high-speed internet that's affordable. I mean, where I'm at right now, AT&T only offers 24 Mbps for like $30. Spectrum offers 200 and something Mbps, speed, and they have for about the same price, $30 or so. And they have the high-speed fiber optic at 1,000 Mbps. I hope I'm saying the speed number right, but that costs $100. So I'm like, well, AT&T, you're saying Black Lives Matter, but where Black people live, are you making high-speed fiber optic internet available at an affordable price? So miss me with that, because you're not even taking the steps to make that digital equity a reality. So we as librarians, as educators, as citizens, we need to speak up to the companies that are doing business in our communities and what they're offering to us. We need to speak up to our elected representatives and say, hey, what can we do at the local, state, and federal level to bring about this digital equity that we're seeking, so that we can teach our kids, so that we can reach our kids, so that we can work. Right. This is it's an important issue, and
I think that's a tweetable. Miss me with that was just tweetable.
Yeah, you can miss me
with that. I was like, if I have my phone, tweet. Deidra, did you want to add anything to this part of the conversation before we start wrapping up?
I do, really quickly. We had a student at my school. The parent contacted me during the middle of the crisis to say that they were staying in a homeless shelter. She didn't feel comfortable having a laptop there because they were required to leave for so many hours each day or something. And she wanted her child to be able to still continue to learn. And she wanted to know, well, what can she do? We wound up having to print out paper packets for that child because she asked. And that just made me start thinking about, what about all of the other kids whose parents don't go and ask that? Because that's an embarrassing thing for some people to come and say, I'm in a homeless shelter. And I just really applauded her for having the courage to stand up and still care about her child having equitable access. And we were able to do that for that child. There was another child who had the laptop, had the Wi-Fi, but his electricity was turned off for like a month. So he still couldn't do any of his work, and he was getting behind. And another situation. So remind y'all's teachers that they need to also offer other options to those students. Tell the students to contact them, DM them, so that they don't have to do it in front of the whole class or whatever. Just DM them if they need any types of special considerations, because that's a simple fix, but it means so much. And that will provide equitable access to the information to everybody, because we can't all do the computer. You may have a student with vision problems, which we have another student who has vision problems. He can't use a regular laptop, and the district has not provided, I don't know if the district's supposed to, his parents, no one has provided him with a special laptop that would help with his vision issues. So again, he needs things to be read to him. He needed to have access to some type of device that was going to actually read out his homework, because before he had an aide who followed him around throughout the day just to help him with his work. So just think about those students, think about what they need. Remind your teachers to ask if the kids need anything in addition, because it may not be, they may not have read. Honestly, teachers don't always read the ARD results. They don't always read the IEPs word for word for every student. You get overwhelmed. So make sure they ask what this student needs.
And I'll just do a final comment with this one about digital equity is, number one, you have to have compassion. Even deeper than empathy, you have to have the compassion to understand certain situations that our students are going through. Some of our students are actually the head of household. You know, we have some middle school students who get elementary students together in the morning to get them out the house on the bus. And so now if all of us are learning online, now I'm actually trying to do my lesson that my teacher's giving me, but also it's like I have kids, you know, like I'm also trying to help all the rest of the kids in the house. So make sure that you are understanding the situations, have compassion, ask about the situations that are going on in your area. And it's the little things like not forcing your students to get on camera. Some students do not want to show what's going on in their homes, or maybe are not even presentable to be on camera themselves, or just, I am dealing with 50 kids while I'm trying to learn that lesson. So thinking about asynchronous learning and synchronous learning, maybe do some video recordings. Not everyone can be there live at the same time. All that kind of stuff, just everything that we've all said plus. So thank you so much, everyone. I've been putting the evaluation in the chat. I will stay on a little bit to help anyone that is not able to get to the evaluation, but please, for the people that are watching this live, fill out the evaluation. That is how you get your certificate. You should get it immediately. And when I say immediately, it's not magic. So give it like 2 minutes and you should get the email with the certificate. But thank you to the Media Center Mavens. It is always an honor and a pleasure when we can get together and present together. So thank you, Raquel. Thank you, Deidra. Thank you, Valerie. I do want to say, guys, you can connect with them through their Twitter handles. So definitely get those Twitter handles out the chat. If you're watching this on YouTube, it's in the description. So definitely go to the description. And it is time to wrap up. But I do have one more question for Valerie. You talked about getting more politically involved. Just very quick, like 2 sentences. How do I start?
Connect with professional organizations and find out what their legislative committee agendas are. And
like ALA.
Yes, like ALA or the Texas Library Association. They're in the process of updating their website. But find out what they're working on and then start from there. Okay. And ALA is the American Library Association, Texas Library Association. All the 3 ladies you see on here are in Texas. I was in Texas when I met them, so that's why you're hearing a lot of Texas speak. But if you have a librarian organization in your state or in your country, hook up with them and see about that. Thank you, Valerie, for answering that last question. So thank you, everyone. Thank you for coming, and we will be here to support.
Right.